Hey, everybody. It's Nicole with So Much More. And you're in my studio here in Kansas City. Last night, I loaded up my long arm with the yellow version. I'm calling it the yellow version. It's like yellow, orange, brown version of the patchwork, the fractal patchwork quilt. So the blue, purple, teal version is hanging on the wall right there. But I'm getting ready to quilt this quilt. But before I do that, I wanted to share with you my process for loading my quilt. Um, it's so I recorded this last night. I wanted to share that with you. Let me go ahead and share that with you right now. Hey, my name is Nicole with So Much More, and I am going to show you how I loaded this quilt onto my long arm. The fractal patchwork quilt pattern is made up of, believe it or not, half square and quarter square triangles, mostly half square triangles. There are a few squares, but by the looks of it, you'd think that they would be long strips of fabric. And I found that that might make it a little more tricky for the beginner quilter. So these are all patchwork pieces, and you can even use a cutting system to cut out your half square triangles and quarter square triangles. So I'm hanging up my first quilt sample, and then I'm going to be loading this quilt, another sample, on my frame that's right behind me. So let's get started. Well, I searched high and low for the perfect backing for this quilt. Now I'm making, as I said before, the fractal patchwork pattern, and I'm going to be quilting this, and this is the second quilt that I've made of this, and this is a different colorway. So this is more of like a yellow, orange, and gold colorway. The backing is perfect. The first thing that I do is I load my backing onto the leader of my long arm. And then I'm going to just straighten everything out, make sure that all the wrinkles are out of the way. I did press the backing beforehand, but sometimes it gets a little wrinkly. And so I've identified some of those. I am finding the middle of the backing right now. That's what I was doing just before with that pin. I was identifying the middle. And now I found a place that really needs some steam. So I'm just using, there's nothing underneath. I'm just putting a bunch of steam right there, got that wrinkle out of the way. And then I'm continuing to roll my backing onto my long arm. Now my long arm is a Juki J-350. I have a 10-foot frame, and I do have the electronics component to the long arm. And so later on I'll be doing some edge-to-edge quilting on this quilt, but first we need to load the quilt. So I've just about got all of the backing on the rails. I've attached it to the back of the, or the top of the front of the top rail, and then I'm going to put everything back in the beginning position. So I'm just rolling those rods back to the beginning, and then after I get the backing back to the beginning, making sure that all of the wrinkles are out, everything looks straight, and so now it's ready for the batting. Now I store my batting underneath my long arm. You might be able to see it right next to the table underneath. It's there's a space for two huge rolls of batting. And so this one is, I'm just identifying the center, lining the batting up with the center of my backing there, and then I'm just going to be floating my quilt top. Now, you see the quilt on the wall, and the one that I'm loading up right now, there are two different colorways. I actually have several options in my shop for fabric kits, and so these are sold separately from the pattern, but there is that teal and blue, the orange, brown, and yellow, also the pinks and the grays. Lots of options for this quilt, and there's kits available, so you don't have to really think about what would look good together. So I've taken some of the guesswork out of that for you. Now, one of the features of the Juki J350 is that it has a basting stitch. And that's basically what I'm doing here is I'm basting all of the layers together, and then I'm going to continue to do this through the entire quilt. I'm going to advance the quilt all the way to the end, and every section that is not basted, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this is just a trick that I've learned. I saw a couple friends do this, and it has really helped me keep the quilt straight on the rails as I progress through the quilt. Now you could also attach your top through the rest of the railing system, but I found that this is a lot quicker. And when I get to the section of where I'm basting it, but I'm actually quilting it, then I just easily take out those basting stitches. I've even got to a point where my basting thread is a different color than the regular thread that I'm using. I think I'm going to use white thread for this quilt. I think it's going to blend in nicely, but yeah, so I'm just trimming off the extra batting here. I don't need that extra batting. I'm not trimming the backing because I still need that to hold onto the rails. And then I'm doing my final trim or my final basting of the quilt. And so now I'm going to be advancing or putting the quilt back at the very beginning. And then so this is just moving the quilt along the rail system. You think that some of those wrinkles won't come out, but they really do come out. They come out quickly and they come out nicely. So now I am ready to quilt this quilt. I need to go through my edge-to-edge library and decide what I'm going to be quilting. It's such an angular quilt that I think that I want some type of circles. So stay tuned to see what edge-to-edge pattern that I choose for this fractal patchwork quilt. The Fractal Patchwork pattern is available for immediate download, and you can also purchase the video course option as well. That'll just help you finish your quilt faster. And as I mentioned, this is a patchwork quilt. So it is a bunch of half square triangles, some quarter square triangles, and a few squares. It makes this quilt come together pretty quickly. Bye for now. That's awesome, you guys. So thanks for watching that video. If you have any questions, you can leave those in the chat. I am, like I said, going to be quilting this quilt today. I haven't chose my edge-to-edge pattern yet. I am thinking of something with circles because it is such an angular quilt. So I'm really excited about, doing some browsing online to find, I think I might even have something in my library right now. Now, the quilt on the wall was quilted with a circular pattern, and it turned out really, really well. I liked that pattern. It quilted out nicely. I can't remember the name of it. I think that I have it on my Instagram feed right now. But anyway, I'm really excited to get this quilted. I need to load up some bobbins. I'm going to be doing a white thread, and just going to have so much fun quilting this today. Now, this pattern is available in PDF format, and I did mention that it uses a cutting system. So there are half square triangles and quarter square triangles and a few squares that make up this quilt. Let me just show you. And it looks like just a whole bunch of strips of fabric, but it's actually patchwork. And so throughout here is half square triangles, and you can cut all of the half square triangles with a fabric cutting system, which makes for really quick piecing. When you use a fabric cutting system, you don't have to cut off your dog ears. You don't have to even trim, which is a huge time saver. So next week, I'll be talking more about what dies that I used and how that all works. So be sure to subscribe to my channel and my newsletter. I have that linked if you want to sign up for that below. And then you'll be the first to know about new videos, new patterns, and things like that. So this is the patchwork, the fractal patchwork pattern. It's available right now. I've linked that in the chat and in the description of this video. So thanks so much for joining me. I'm here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central. So be sure to subscribe to my channel and get those notifications so that you can join me live next time. And bye for now.